Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Here Lies Metal Too Many Notes music review. And once again, I am Maledictus.
And I am Samantha.
And today we have a new band called Konquest with a K with The Night Goes On.
All right, Konquest is a heavy metal band from Prato, Italy. That is outside Florence, I believe.
Northern Italians. And they're from Italy? Well, no, I'm looking at the picture here, and where are the costumes?
Look, not every band is Death SS, okay?
No, there's other bands.
Okay, there was maybe
that
two
other
bands.
one, those other guys with the pianos and
Konquest,
stuff.
okay.
What are they called?
Konquest. No, we're talking about Konquest.
Okay.
This is, despite this photo, this is a one-man band. Perhaps this is his backing band, but Mr. Alex Rossi is responsible for every sound on this record, and this is his first album. It was released on Iron Oxide Records on January 8th.
Is he related to Martini Rossi?
Who is that?
Like the drink, Martini and Rossi.
Is that like from...
It's the I don't know what that is. It's like some bad Italian wine, or is it a triple sec? I don't even know. I'm not good at drinking. So anyway, are we ready to continue here? So it's now time for the official Here Lies Metal 5-point bidirectional classification scale, including the categories genre loyalty, production style, musical complexity, and just plain fun. And please note, neither ends of the style denotes good or bad. Let's get on with the review.
All right, first, our genre scale, true to nonconformist. We are giving this a 1 for true. This is some very true to form, standard issue, new wave of traditional heavy metal, done very well with an awesome sound. Particularly, I'd say this is a blend of Thin Lizzy with early Maiden and early Priest vibes.
Yes, Konquest with a K is a great mix of all the 70s band that all the bands with a retro sound are trying to sound like. That's too many like words in one thing. But anyway, they faithfully channel the three big bands that no one can ever deny are the solid foundations of metal today. You know, your Thin Lizzy, your Judas Priest, your Iron Maiden. I think every metal band just kind of worships them, you know, without question. And now with their sound, you would think these guys are from Sweden, you know, that retro rock sound. We've done so much on that.
Well, that's what you said to me when I first said you should listen. You're like, so this is Swedish?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, so this is Sweden. It's like, nope, from Italy.
That gives you a good indication of what this sounds like. It sounds like the Swedish bands doing the traditional sound. It's a pretty stripped down sound as well, I would say, as far as this goes. All right, moving on to our listenability scale. This is a 5, distorted pop. This is very catchy and approachable, and from a time before heavy metal was scary.
Yes, it's the time when heavy metal was for good times. You know, it wasn't really, you know, even like, you know, Black Sabbath and stuff wasn't that scary, you know, compared to, you know, there was no extreme metal yet, was you're trying to say. But yeah, there's no sonic terror to be found here. None at all. There's nothing terrible in here. There's nothing harsh in here. It all sounds good. It all sounds nice. It's a more fun time in metal. The more I listen to this, I simply hear sort of a more aggressive metal-focused version of Thin Lizzy. You're going to hear that, you know, a lot because this is very Thin Lizzy. I mean, the riffs are just like kind of, you know, just directly borrowed from the real Thin Lizzy. That's all. I'm not gonna say they're copying, but you know, you'll recognize like little transitions, and you're like, yeah, that's,
in a way, everyone's copying.
Yeah, that's true.
Thin Lizzy.
Everyone's just been copying Thin Lizzy ever since because they're the coolest band ever. What can I tell you? The vocalist has a bit. Speaking of the vocalist, Mr. Rossi, he has a bit of an off-key Ace Frehley. I mean, like Ace Frehley, because Ace Frehley kind of always sings off-key, not like an off-key Ace Frehley, because that would be really off-key. You know, to his voice, but you know, with a lot more higher energy and angst and enthusiasm, and far less cocaine than the real Ace Frehley, I would say. I would imagine.
I would assume. I mean, how could you have more cocaine?
Yeah, no one could have more cocaine.
All right, but also what really puts us on the pop end is a very strong emphasis on songwriting on this thing. We're operating very much within traditional structures. You know, you're going to get your verse, you're going to get your chorus. You know what's going on.
Yes,
So.
just enough. All the parts in the song are pretty standard. All the A B A B A whatever, however you do that. I don't know how to do that.
All right. Production scale. This is a middle of the road production. It's a great retro production, especially considering this is a one-man venture. I don't know what kind of backing he's got behind him, but one man is always the DIY. But this doesn't really sound too DIY. What do you think?
Yeah, one major advantage of having the one-man band, which I feel like so many bands have been doing recently, is like a one-man band. But one thing I've been noticing about all of them is that a one-man band, you get the sound you want, and it's not open for debate. And, no guitarists can be like, well, I want it to sound this way. You don't have to deal with that. You're the boss, you're the dictator, and that's the way it's going to be. In a lot of ways, that's good, but then in a lot of ways, no one can help you. You have to be really driven, I think. As most one-man bands we've talked to, they're very driven people, I feel. They're very, they're focused on the goal. There's no distractions. You got to be a certain kind of person. But
it's a pretty clean production sound, but not. It's also stripped down, as I said before. It's got a little bit of an edge to it, but it's not dirty. It's not too dirty. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's got that retro sound. So whatever he's doing he's capturing technologically or organically, getting that sound that makes it sound like it's from 1977. So he's got that going. And, I don't know how they do that. I'm trying to figure out how they do that. But comment down below.
All right, time to count the notes. We've got some notes here. We've got a middle amount of notes. This album is about guitars, I would say. If you like grooving guitars, this is for you. We have fast and exciting riffs and also epic twin guitar harmony lines.
Also known as Thin Lizzy.
We have Thin Lizzy happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of punchy bass lines as well, and with tastefully blistering leads. He does a lot of leads, a lot of solos, but they're tasteful. Not too many notes. Enough notes.
Yeah, well, back then, they couldn't really go crazy with guitars. I mean, it wasn't Eddie Van Halen yet, who kind of set the basis for that, I think. Someone like Eddie Van Halen or the brother of the guy from Scorpions. I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Michael Schenker?
Yeah, that's it, Michael Schenker. I don't have brain power anymore. But anyway, they have the leads. They have the twin guitar, a Scott Gorham Robbo kind of duel going there that everyone loved. 1977 era Thin Lizzy. And Thin Lizzy has different eras. 1977 is probably the most era that people want to really replicate. But Konquest with a K seems to have the correct amount of notes for the retro rock style they study so faithfully, and 1 million notes a minute simply wasn't, and I've said this before in other reviews, it simply wasn't technologically feasible. You couldn't do it back then. It wasn't the technology. It wasn't the guitar technology. This
is a period accurate amount of notes.
Yes, you couldn't do that back then. You couldn't have a Dream Theater back then. It's not going to happen. In addition, I noticed there's a lot of emphasis on instrumentals, and you don't get a lot of bands really doing instrumentals from my experience. Anyway, that was kind of an 80s, it was an 80s metal thing.
You'll run across it, especially throwbacks bands like this.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're throwback.
There's a whole instrumental track 5, Fall of the Conqueror. It's a very dramatic heavy metal guitar adventure. It's a good instrumental. But there's also on all the other songs as well, there's often long drawn out just guitar time
between talking. Yes, that too.
Between verses is just it's time for guitar, and we'll have a lot of guitar at that time.
People used to do that more back then. It was a guitar adventure. Don't call it instrumental, call it guitar adventure. Especially if it's music that sounds like it's a guitar adventure.
Well, sometimes it's instrumentals, sometimes they're interludes, and sometimes it's guitar adventure.
It's guitar adventure time. It's now we're going to stop the words for a while. I'm going to play. Do we know if the singer plays guitar? We mentioned he plays guitar, right? He plays the guitar.
Look at his Instagram and see him tracking guitar.
There you go. So he's got to have a. And I can imagine that the singer didn't play guitar in this. How can he? He did
everything.
Right.
He's a one-man band.
There you go. So how can he? Yeah. How can he? How can he not do that? Yeah. That wouldn't make any sense. So.
Okay. Finally, our last and best scale, fun. We're giving this a very fun, high fun marks, not fun all the way. I'm marking it like this because heavy metal of the style is always fun, good time music, but a lot of the songs kind of strike me as a little bit of an angsty, a little bit of a tension vibe to them, Like, for example, track 4, Keep Me Alive, like the guitars are a bit angsty, but however, like there's this overall exuberance to it, like especially that shouted chorus, Keep Me Alive, that kind of definitely has the fun prevail at the end. But you know, the album is also dealing with some like poignant times, elements, like track titles like holding back the tears,
Holding back the tears,
and Heavy Heart. So maybe we're a bit melancholy here, but we're also rocking out. So I would say the recommended activity for this album is going out for a drive at night when you just gotta get away.
That's not a typo. It's holding back the tears. Language barrier? Who knows? Not, let it go. Well, you see, driving to get away, I say put in the 8-track version of Konquest in your 77 Camaro and run away from the cops. Do something bad and run away from the cops. That's what this is for. This is a full-body denim, mirror shades, and mullet metal. It's the guy we all want to be. I want to be that guy. I could be that guy. And we're in a time where the cars were cool, and social media involved, actually real people, and normal people didn't give a fuck about politics. Those were the good days. And music like this can only be fun. All music that sounds like this can only be fun because it reminds us of us older folks, especially, of simpler times. So yeah.
And final note is I don't usually pick like a favorite song, but I have a distinct, definite favorite on this album, which is the 7-minute epic closer. Most songs are about 4 minutes. The Vision, just everything on the song, all the performances, the guitar, the bass, just the writing. It was my favorite song. I was like, it's my jam on the album, so check it out.
Back then, you didn't have the technology to do a lot of notes, but you could do long songs back then. A lot of people did that. I mean, it wasn't like Sleep, an hour-long song. Well, unless you were the Allman Brothers, you could probably do that. But, a lot of people would have like 20-minute songs. That's what prog rock bands do that.
Yeah, but that is abnormal for the album. Most songs are, a pretty standard length. They're not trying you out. But again, the Vision, it's got a long guitar adventure parts on it, and you do not notice that it's 7 minutes long.
Right, so it gets through. It doesn't drag,
All right.
So now it's time to talk about the album art. We always talk about the album art. The art means a lot to us. Some people kind of ignore the art, but the art is part of our review. It's officially part of our review. So we're looking at your artwork as well, bands. So we got Konquest here, the Konquest album. The Night Goes On. What does that look like to you?
It's a doorway into the blue realm.
It's a gateway into like this. It's like a Stargate, right? You go in there, and something else in there.
It's in the night realm, where the night is on.
Yeah, that doesn't lead you to the the place where
you're going to the night realm. Where is this doorway though?
It's in the middle of an airbrushed background. That's where it is. Airbrush is something people used to do in the 1980s. Like, people always, when a lot of like older people talk about photoshopping, they'll say airbrushing, and they say that because people used to literally airbrush photos back then to make it, like the women look with the really like pastel-y skin. That's how they would get like the pimples off of your skin. They would literally get an airbrush. And if you don't know what an airbrush is, look it up. You still make them, I think. But that was the thing to do back then. It would give you a very soft look. And in fact, when I was young taking art lessons, when I was like 9, I used to take airbrush lessons because it was the 1980s. And, I was learning from my art teacher, who was like the ultimate 80s woman. She was like the most 80s woman ever. And she was showing us how to do like cool airbrush scenes, like these kind of.
Okay. All right. You have any thoughts on the art here?
Scenes. It's airbrushed. And, I think it might be like really airbrushed. Like, I think he's going full on retro. Like, that wasn't done in Photoshop.
You think that's a painting?
Yeah, I think maybe some of the actual airbrush. Like, you got the guy at the carnival, the guy at the, at the boardwalk.
Well, we have an artist credit. His name is Zero, Zeeero.
These artists always have like crazy names. I noticed they never like
So yes, enter the portal into the night realm where the night goes on.
Where you go into the airbrush dimension where there's it's like an 80s kind of scene.
All right.
It's all neon and stuff.
Final thoughts. Konquest, awesome album. Yeah. Our first pick for review for 2021. Starting the year off, fucking heavy metal.
Yeah, no costumes required. You could just come as you are in your denim. So, all right. That's it for today. We'll see you next time with another episode of Here Lies Metal. Too many notes. Music review. Bye. Good night.